Can you talk us through what you get out of this first sparkling wine?
Oh, yes. Let me grab my glass.
The good part, the tasting part.
The best part.
Yes.
Indeed. Mm. Mm. Pardon me. Wow. What I mostly get is minerality. And then I get behind that Chenin Blanc. But there is a very kind of chalky oyster shell immediacy, both on the nose and the palate, that's quite striking. Then once the wine hits my palate, I tend to taste that chalk and oyster shell kind of crumbled up and mixed together, along with some yellow fruits and say like a yellow plum or maybe some white cherries, and that remind me of Chenin Blanc. And then on the finish, which is it's somewhat short. It's not. It's a perfectly delicious wine. It delivers everything that I expect, but it's not a particularly long wine in terms of finish. I wouldn't age this wine. I'd drink it up this summer and enjoy it. But I get a little bit of kind of an wet dog coat, a bit of wet wool character that is very typical of Chenin. And sometimes some of those descriptors that we use in wine sound really weird and unpleasant.
They do.
But they're a good thing when you're smelling wine, and they tend to actually speak very much of varietal character as well as terroir.
Which is interesting because lanolin, wooliness, cheesiness, sometimes with sparkling Chenin, I think are very appropriate terms, and people shouldn't be afraid of a little wet dog and just a little soupçon wet dog in your sparkling Chenin. I don't. If it's dominant, I wouldn't be too excited.
I don't know. Maybe would wet puppy be more fun? Mm-hmm. Maybe wet puppy is better than wet dog. I don't know. Maybe.
Wet kitten. Let's call it wet kitten, and it'll be an internet sensation.
But kittens are so clean, that it's a. I don't know. It's a different. I don't know. Pheromone something.
It could be. It certainly is. They don't smell like wet puppies, but they're definitely much cuter. So the wine taste of oyster shells. The wine is very mineral. I've got two actually. I found two little schematics. The science of minerality. Minerality in wine is this great nebulous sort of thing because scientists will tell you there's no transfer of minerality, there's no direct uptake of minerality through the roots. But if you taste wine enough, it is striking how, with some certainty, you get a sense that some wines are grown on limestone in particular, or slate, shale. Something that definitely happens that informs the flavor and the taste of the wine. And Vouvray is a limestone-based region. There's a lot of clay on top. I've got these little diagrams I'm going to go here.
Yeah, let's check those out.
This is one in French. It shows you a cave. There are a lot of caves, natural caves that are used for aging in Vouvray. There's a little trivia tip. They say that when there's fog in the cave, it means a storm is coming. I think that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing.
I'd never heard that one. I like that.
Yeah, that's.
Wait, there's actually fog inside the cave.
Inside the caves. If you go in somebody's cave and it's foggy, they say, well, that's because a storm is coming. You learn something new. I was not convinced, and then it rained, so it might be true. So there's this 90 meters of limestone, calcium-based limestone. Then there's a clay and silica-based layer, and then there are slate, flint rocks, basically. There's a version of it in English where you have. Oh, this is also in French. I thought this was in English. I took the wrong thing. But also very similar. That's the terroir. That's the soil of the Loire Valley, right?
Yeah, and it definitely differs because different bits, as you can imagine, hills and valleys and plateaus, that sort of thing, produce different stuff. And there are a couple of fancy terms for different bits of Vouvray soil. So obviously tuffeau means chalky limestone, and there are lots of cellars carved out of tuffeau, even chateaux carved out of tuffeau, around the Loire Valley. And then you get bits of land that have some gravel and some flint, and those are called perruque. And those give spicier and more delicate wines. And then you've got as you were talking about at the beginning, Greg, the clay and gravel overlaid limestone, and that's called ogui. And those are supposed to produce wines that are very silky. And in fact, Rabelais called them, the super crazy and very famous French writer in 1533 called them wines of taffeta.